Bob here, and we're getting back into some Hack the Box. I've been recording a series on YouTube called A Beginner's Guide to Ethical Hacking and Cybersecurity, and a lot of it so far has been focused around the pathway on Hack the Box's website called Starting Point. Starting Point has a series of very easy machines, and when I say very easy, I mean very easy to the typical technical person, but for someone who's just trying to explore this, get their feet wet, understand a little bit about IT and cybersecurity, it may actually be medium to hard at first, because if you've never heard of a virtual machine or ever heard of an IP address before, then, this would be maybe hard. So I will say, on the subject of difficulty, that, yes, I would consider all these boxes in Starting Point very easy. But at 0, 1, and 2, and each tier gets more challenging, but Starting Point is designed to be just that. Many of you who are watching the stream and watching the recordings on YouTube, you probably don't remember Hack the Box's Starting Point, I don't know, just 2-3 years ago. Hack the Box used to be, you couldn't even create an account on the website unless you hacked in and got an invite code, which was really cool and niche, and got a lot of higher caliber individuals on the platform, people that were already technical, people that were already in IT. But then over time, the idea and the perspective on who the beginner actually is and what level of beginner exists has evolved at Hack the Box, and they eventually revamped all of Starting Point and included more guided experiences where you pretty much had to rely on write-ups written online to get through Starting Point, and I would not have personally back then classified Starting Point as an official starting point. So I will say that Hack the Box has done a phenomenal job in breaking out tiers. And I will say one thing that I really love about Hack the Box is they started out trying to essentially train current IT professionals and current cybersecurity professionals that already had a technical foundation. That's where Hack the Box started. So a lot of their initial content that they put out was for that group. If you're a beginner, you may be worried or intimidated about that, and I do get it. Hack the Box can have an intimidation factor to it, but ultimately it's good because they realized later on, as they matured as a company and continued to grow and had the resources to start offering to more skill levels and building content to more skill levels, now there's a floor that you can start at, and then now you know that you won't quickly outgrow Hack the Box. And that's one thing that, I find really awesome is that, I can introduce students I've had and learners I've had who are brand new to the industry. I can introduce them through Hack the Box. And then you can grow with the platform over years and still have challenges. Right when you're like, I'm done with single boxes or single machine challenges, you can go into pro labs. And pro labs are like entire enterprise networks it's like a realistic pen test. Or you can say, you know what, I want to go into the academy side, which is more of a structured learning journey, which I will talk about later in this series. And we'll actually get into some modules in Hack the Box Academy after this. So if you've been following along in the series so far, we're about to finish Tier 0. And once we're done with Tier 0, we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to go into Hack the Box Academy, and we're going to work through a new pathway on Hack the Box Academy that I think is going to give you, as a beginner, And if you're just trying to strengthen your foundations, even a boost, and you're going to get a lot of a good learning from that. I'm going to teach. I'm also going to, essentially assign work or challenge you to go do some work. I won't do all these modules in a way that I'm walking through every single step. I'll point you to the reading, because the modules have reading. But before we get into that, I do want to start to work. I want to finish tier 0, because we got to get in the habit of finishing what we started. This is a big thing in learning, and maybe I'll just go on a side rant about this. You need to finish what you started. And I'm talking to myself too, because one thing that is easy to do in this day and age is to just start something and then squirrel off on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or X and if you're as addicted to social media as I am, you probably scroll. You probably have scrollitis, which is a made up disease I'm talking about, where you're just scrolling forever and you're just kind of stuck in this scroll. And while that can be educational, that can give you exposure and to things that you maybe have never heard of, it largely is not that great for your learning experience. If you have a goal and you have learning goals that you need to do, like if your part of this is like, I want to get through this course, I want to get through these videos, I want to get through starting point, commit to that and really do it. Even when it's not on even when the high of the beginning in the starting wears off. Because I see a lot of people get stuck there. They're just stuck at always starting something because it's super exciting. And I get it. It's really exciting to just start and go and I'm learning and I'm so glad, I'm proud of myself that I started this. And then once the high of it wears off and it starts to get a little bit harder, it's all right, I don't need to go over here and chase another dopamine hit. And so, that's one of the things about social media that I think can get you stuck in it, is you're always constantly starting something new. So it's a new hit of a new thing. So you almost never get caught in it. And that's why I'm not big on shorts. I usually do long form content and then I'll break my content up into shorts so that the shorts almost acts as an advertisement for the longer content. But if you get too stuck in shorts, you'll never learn anything deeply. And this is true for all kinds of things. It's sometimes you do need to really dig in and get into this. So, I'll always apologize for being long-winded, but the long form is my thing, because I do think long form is helpful and it helps you, dig deeper and it helps you learn at a deeper level, because you understand, I'm going to put in as many hours as this takes, whether it's 10 minutes or several hours, and I have to break it up over multiple days. You're going to thank yourself for embracing that. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and continue with Synced. Synced is a Linux box that touches on a tool that I'm a big fan of called RSync. So RSync, I love rclone too, and they're very similar. But, essentially what RSync does is it's an open source utility that provides fast incremental file transfer. It uses deltas. So, you think about an update in software when you got to run an update, of Windows. Let's use that as an example. It doesn't install Windows 11 all over again, right? It installs the changes since the last update, right? The delta. So we're going to go ahead and start up a machine. I'm going to use Pwnbox. You can fire up your VM right now. And again, I'll say this, over and over, is the best way to learn in my videos and in my content is to follow along with me. I do go on side rants, but I also show you my methodology. A lot of my videos I will, with Starting Point, I did want to make sure you saw me solving this for the first time. A lot of these boxes I hadn't done before. So during the video and during the stream, I'm actually doing these live. trying to avoid as much as possible needing to edit a lot, because I'm not a huge fan of editing. Just because it's, I can do it. It's just, I'd rather not edit a bunch. But the reason I show you like raw how I'm approaching it and not trying to produce it too much is because I feel like it gives people courage, and people have told me it gives them courage to do it, to see that, oh, he's like not solving it right away. He's not going too fast. And that's another part of it, is like, as I'm going, hopefully it feels like I'm right there with you, and like this is more of a class than just a walkthrough of exactly how to do it. I want you to pull a lot out of this. So we've spawned Pwnbox. Once you spawn Pwnbox and connect, you can spawn your machine. And, once we get this spawned, I will move this to another screen so we can just focus on looking at Pwnbox. But what we can think about it now is like, as this is spawning, what is the default port for RSync? This is something you can copy and paste. 873 is what Gemini thinks. We can ask Grok. How fast would Grok figure that out? Grok keeps on getting faster. You see, Grok gives us this reasoning. We try 873. Once this spawns, it does give us the ability to start answering tasks. It would be good if we could, have this unlocked earlier, so that I think that would be good logic. So if anybody on the Hack the Box team is watching, maybe a good idea for a starting point is just let people maybe click this button to unlock. So what is the default? It's not a big deal. Not do or die. All right, so IP, remember we always want to ping that, but before we do that, what is the default port for RSync? 873. We probably don't need a hint on that. That's more of a trivial question, and we got that. You can see the success behind me. I'm blocking it, but we see the green check. So RSync uses 873. Good to know. I'm going to click on this to copy it. We're going back over here, and we're going to ping. Remember, we ping so that we make sure on Hack the Box our machine is reachable. You're going to thank me for getting you in the habit of doing this. So it's replying. Cool. That's a successful reply because it's given us a response time. And we know we can start to scan this, right? Because this is what we've been doing this far in this series, is we have been doing enumerating, which I did cover what enumerating is. We're basically looking to see what is running on this machine. Because we've got the guided questions, we know it's probably the case that RSync is running on this machine. The question you might have, and I'm typing out a good Nmap scan for you to do. There we go. Oop, it copied something else in memory there. Sometimes the clipboard in Pwnbox just assumes anything you highlight is what you want to copy. So we're going to run that scan. So RSync is used for file transfers. It's used for updating. An update is, updates involve installing files or downloading files from a place on the internet, right? So you may have software update tools that use RSync and tools like rclone. When it comes to backups, like backing up files, you'll definitely see rclone and RSync to ensure that any changes are tracked. So if you're backing up some kind of data, pictures, I'll think like file shares to a cloud location or to a location on a network share, you would use this to track those changes, and there'd be some kind of automated job that kicks off, the execution of RSync or rclone is another one, to send the changes. Because let's say you had 100 gig file and you initially captured that backup and you sent it to a share on the network. You don't want to send that 100 gig file every time. You just want to change. You just want to send the changes, right? And so, this is how you can save storage space. And so, as ethical hackers or pen testers approaching this, knowing these kind of tools exist in an environment, we are obviously looking at what can we do to actually check and see, how we can access RSync. And this is where you kind of, the rest of starting point is talking about, like, it's like seems kind of easy because you're just connecting using these tools, but like sometimes it is as simple as just connecting to the service and it lets you in. But you first have to know how to connect to a service. Who is that? Oh, thanks for the raid, Night Raider. Is that a raid? Or you just said Raider? Keyboard. Good to see you, Keyboard. So, what are we going to do? We're going to use AI tools, use Google, and you can take the time to do this now. I'll do it as well to find out how do we connect to an RSync service, right? So, how can I connect to RSync service? Sweet. Appreciate you. He said, bruh. Like, so it's giving us some syntax here. This is one of my favorite new ways to learn. People are like, at first, people judge me, and then they're like, okay, maybe I'll try it. Because, I'm Googling. This is basically Googling, but it's giving you more informed answers now, and it helps you learn faster. So it says this tunnel RSync through SSH, encrypting the transfer. No separate daemon is needed on the remote side, just an SSH server. So we have to have RSync already. Let's connect directly to the RSync daemon. So look at this. So I'll copy this. Give a more practical example. The destination IP is and we don't have a user yet. We may be getting ahead of ourselves and treating this like a box where we have, that is Grok, where we are being asked more than just to connect to it and get the flag. So how many TCP ports are open on the remote host? See, we got ahead of ourselves. Looks like there's one, which you could see the hint there. What is the protocol version used by RSync on the remote machine? Version 31. What is the most common command name on Linux to interact with RSync? What is the most common command name on Linux to interact with RSync? RSync? Is it RSync? Let's try that. Yeah, probably. Is that like a trick question? Hack the box. Yeah. What credentials do you have to pass to RSync in order to use anonymous authentication? Anonymous, none, RSync. See, this is giving the answer away. So you don't have to. Well, this is where it's teaching you with your guided questions. Is like, so we're connecting with none. So anonymous authentication may be open. We did a box before where FTP anonymous login was possible, meaning you could connect to a file transfer protocol server using the username called anonymous with no password. So let's try to connect. Let's see what Grok said. Remote path. It might not even be that deep. What is the leading option to only list shares and files on RSync? Cool. If we do this right here, just so we have it in our memory. And remember, that question indicates we don't necessarily need. Okay. Let's just do this. No such file or directory. So then this is where we can really get to learning. Try this one. We don't have the remote path. Let's see. To connect to RSync service on the remote host at 129.16.120, you need to specify a source, what to sync, and format the destination correctly for remote access, either over SSH or via the RSync daemon. Yeah, this is so Grok's. I haven't given Grok context that I'm connected. So we're gonna view the man page of RSync and see what kind of options we have, because it did want us to list files. So we would need. It would be helpful to know what files are being shared out or listed on RSync. So here's what Grok was telling us about syntax. We're just missing one piece, and then we should be able to connect. You could do this too. See if Grok comes up with that. List only, yeah. We're faster than you, Grok. Kidding. Don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me, Grok. Where was that IP again? Let me get the IP. Paste. Oh, dash dash. So one thing, okay. We found 2 shares, public and anonymous share. So what I'm going to do, let's say like you don't understand why a command did what it did. You just kind of used it because you learned about it. Like, one of the questions I have is why is the 2 colons necessary? Because that's our command. So list only is our command. While Grok prepares an answer for us, we should be able to do list only. And then we'll get the root flag by probably using RSync to download I would assume anonymous share, syncing it to our system. So then the question is, how do you, once you know this, and this is where your learning can accelerate and you know, getting your answer can accelerate, is I can copy this and say, how can I sync both these files? So it says in the rsync command syntax, the double colon is used to specify that you're connecting directly to an rsync daemon, a server process listening on TCP port 873 by default, rather than tunneling over a secure protocol like SSH. This distinguishes it from SSH-based transfers, which use a single colon, after the host name. Without the double colon, rsync would interpret the address as a local path or an attempt an SSH connection, potentially leading to errors if no SSH setup is intended. Okay, cool. So now, if I want to sync both of these files locally, how would I do that? And I promise I'm working on an AI course as well for people that want to get familiar with like writing applications and using AI tools and scripting. And I think it would be fun to install like a Claude code or even like a cursor in Pomebox and just go to town on a target and see how far we can get just without Googling anything, but just staying in that AI tool. I think that would be kind of fun. So understanding sync request. So it's, it's interpreting what I shared from my output in my terminal. That would be nice with Grok too, if Grok could just automatically pick up on this is output from a terminal. I could tell it that, but I'm talking about in the formatting. So sometimes I like to race like Gemini against Grok. Gemini is hard to beat. So like, look how fast it went here. Let's try this. Okay. So public is where the flag was. This is still thinking about it. Gemini grabbed it right away. So I guess with anonymous share, oh, it's got a comment. So those aren't 2 shares. That's just a comment describing the public share. So they both came up with the same answer. Gemini just got it a little bit quicker just because the power of Google search. So, you know, this to me is like speeding up learning. So feel free to do this as I'm doing it and use your AI tool of choice. But we got the flag right there. Where did it put it though? Oh, it put it in public. Duh. Did it? Did it put it at root? Oops. Remember when you're... One thing I don't think about a lot as I'm making these videos is some beginners following this. What you're developing in the process of working on these boxes is you're developing a skill set with the command line and navigating command line. You're learning a little bit of bash in the process. So what we can ask here is, where did it put it? That's definitely lazy. So you know it didn't put it in public. Well, run pwd in your terminal, then the folder is at LTNBOB public. It didn't put it in there. Maybe I'll try that command again. Let's give it the output. I mean, there's the laziness. It is list only, right? So when we use specific flags, that's when we want to download. So -AV must be us downloading. So add dry run first to preview without transferring. If the module requires authentication, add user before the IP or use a password file. So we're going to grab this, which is rsync-AV 10.129.16.120. That'd be the IP that your target has. And then this. So this flag is letting us download. Or what this option. What does the -AV option do? And this is where it's sort of a profound age we're in right now, is like my video is probably helpful to you, but what may even be more helpful to you is the fact that you can ask any of these chatbots at any time. They're always awake. You know, they never sleep. They don't need sleep. And you can almost, I wouldn't say never, but like being stuck to where like you give up, there's like no excuse now. You can just ask the follow-up question, and you kind of get this tutor that you always have access to. So -AV archive mode, there's a bundle of several options that ensures files are copied in the way that preserves their original attributes. Together, A-V is commonly used for safe, informative syncing For more compression over networks, add -Z, which we don't necessarily need to do since we're just getting the flag and learning a little bit about RSync. So we're doing pasting in rsync-AV, the path on the RSync server, which is public, in the share public, the flag.txt file, and then bringing that on our machine in our, should be our current working directory. It says receiving incremental file list, flag.txt. Now let me try ls. And there's a flag on our machine. ls, of course, is listing the files in the directory and that I'm currently in, which is in public. So when I do pwd, you can see the public directory. Flag.txt is there. I should be able to cat flag.txt, and then I will be done with this tier, starting point tier 0, and this box. So let's do that. And there's your flag. Copying that. And we'll paste in here. Fun video game noises. Nice. Awesome. Right, so you've completed starting point. You're now ready to take the next steps in your cybersecurity journey. Hack the Box offers 300 machines with detailed walkthroughs in a guided mode to enhance your skills. There are multiple tiers of starting point though. Keep that in mind. Tier 0 is just the one we worked on in the beginning half, I guess, of this course. And then, tier 1 we can do later. But in the next videos, in the next series of videos, I'm going to be deep diving on several concepts within cybersecurity, but we're going to pivot to using Hack the Box Academy. And I will see you in the next video.